Welcome to WagerTalk TV, 2 and Out, the CFL preview show, week 13. We're at the midway point, I think, of the CFL season. A lot to talk about. Labor Day north of the border, and with that, there's some rivalry games. With me from WagerTalk.com, our CFL expert, Andrew McInnis, and of course, our insider, Rob Braley from the cottage. So I appreciate him coming on to the show today at late notice. But thanks for coming on, Rob. Andrew, another 5% winner, my friend. I feel like I could just record the intro to this show and just to keep it at another 5% winner. Congrats on that over on the weekend. How are things?
Yeah, feeling great, Carm. Like I said, it was a tough start to the year. I've been saying that over the past few weeks. I believe in full transparency, but 10-3 CFL run now on all plays altogether, and 6-1 this season on 5% plays in the CFL. So anybody out there watching this, if you're not watching these games in the CFL, that's fine by me. But you should be betting on these games. Build your bankroll for the NFL and college football season. So feeling pretty good. However, I will say, Carm, after a few good weeks of cashing an extra point ticket, we did not cash it last week, so we'll try and get back on track with those. But good to be here with you guys. Looking forward to a couple of segments to discuss, and of course, a best bet at the end of the show.
Absolutely, and let's get some more winners out for the guys. We have 4 games on the schedule, and we're going to look at them during the Inside the Number section. But BC Lions, Montreal Alouettes, the games this week are on Saturday and Sunday. Actually, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We've also got Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, Toronto and Hamilton, the QEW rivalry, and then, of course, we have the Edmonton Elks, the hot Edmonton Elks, who finally won a game at home. 415 days between wins for this team at home, taking on the Calgary Stampeders. I'm not sure if that's a Ford versus Ferrari, but we will discuss it on today's show. And it's, as I mentioned, Labor Day weekend up here in Canada. So, Rob Braley, I'm going to bring you in because I know Labor Day weekend has to be your favorite CFL weekend of the season.
Good morning, Andrew. How you guys doing? It's Labor Day weekend. This is my favorite time of CFL season. You got 3 games in particular where the matchups, these guys just absolutely hate each other, and they know, whatever happens this week, you got a chance to get right back at them next week. And I rarely miss the Toronto Hamilton Labor Day Classic because it's always a great football game, great atmosphere. Like all 3 of these games are going to be sold out. I believe they already are. So this also signifies like the home stretch for the CFL. After Labor Day, the playoffs are all everybody's thinking about, and the games get more intense. The weather changes; it turns into CFL's finest football, and it's a great time of year to be in Canada to watch football.
It certainly is, Rob. And I was looking at the weather forecast, and mainly because once this show is done, I'm on my way to Niagara Falls for a few days. So I may make that Hamilton game. Who knows? I'm going to be passing right by the Hammer on my way to Niagara. But we're looking at the forecast, and it should be some good weather at least on the weekend. I'm seeing Sunday is supposed to be a very hot day in the 30s. Or low 30s. So hopefully that carries over to Monday. What better atmosphere than a good weather day with those 2 teams? We always talk about the Argos on this show, of course. I love to poke fun of you. We're not going to have a wager on this game, but as an insider, you're looking at this game. Before we get to some of the questions I have for you and Andrew, where are you leaning in this game, Rob?
Well, first of all, Hamilton is always a weather factor. It might be a nice sunny day, but you got to be careful of the wind there. The wind is always a huge factor. And if the wind is blowing out of the west over 25 to 30 kilometers an hour, you're only going to score at one end of that stadium. So bettors be wary. The weather can change. This is a game I won't bet until very late, until I know exactly what's going on that field. Now, Hamilton, that being said, Hamilton's getting 8.5, I believe, at home. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, it is a lot of points, and I'm going to get to that now. Actually, I'll just jump to this question right now because this is something I want to talk to Andrew about as well too. Is can the Ticats cover a spread at home? We look at the spread records right now for these two teams. I believe the Argos are 3-1 on the road against the spread. Their one loss was to the Stampeders, where they lost the game outright, but the Ticats 1-4 currently against the spread at home. I want you and Andrew to discuss this one. So, Andrew, I'm going to throw it to you first, and then we'll go to Rob as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's look at this Hamilton team, and it's funny. We always try and we promote when we're doing well, and we talk about when we were wrong about certain things. And of course, last week I came into this show saying, yeah, Hamilton is most certainly the worst team in the CFL now, and they go ahead and put a performance like that up on the board against BC, and not other than on the road as well, a place that BC is just so great. So, looking at this team, they played their best game of the year. They got the run game going. Their defense made big stops. Special teams looked good. But can they put together an effort like that in back-to-back weeks is really my biggest thing. And, Rob, when I look at some of these ATS records or some of the CFL just over-under records, I every couple weeks I'll take a look and really see what number sticks out to me. And the 1-4 record ATS this year at home really did stick out to me. This team has struggled. And looking at Toronto, they're a team that does not really take their foot off the gas pedal once they get a lead. So a big spread like that is not really something that kind of worries me. But you talk about Labor Day weekend, you talk about the rivalry and how these games are always interesting. It is a big spread here. And I thought about that as well, what you mentioned about the wind. I was so grateful for you helping us out getting Grey Cup tickets when I went to see Hamilton play. And I noticed the exact same thing that you talked about. That was, of course, kind of in a couple months from now in colder weather. But the wind factor, there was only points at one end of the stadium. That can certainly be a real deal here. But when I look at this game, I look at Toronto's offense. I don't know if Hamilton can trade points with them. But the real thing I'm looking at as well is Toronto's defense good, or is their offense just so good it does not matter? That's what I've been saying all year long. And at this point, it doesn't matter if their defense is so-so, if they're able to score 35, 40 points per game. And if that's the case this upcoming weekend, I don't think Hamilton can trade points with them. What do you think about that, Rob?
I think there's no question Toronto is the better team here, and Toronto's offense is far superior, has been all season to Hamilton's. Now, that being said, they just changed play callers a couple weeks ago. And if you watch the game in BC, they really utilized Butler like they haven't all year. He was about half of their offense. I think he ran for 120 and he caught probably 50 yards. I think it's 45, 50 yards. So they've changed their play calling substantially to focus on their best player and win or lose with their best player. But can one guy beat the Toronto Argonauts? They're going to score some points. If the weather's normal, the weather's fine, they're definitely going to score some points. I think the Argos defense is good, but the secondary last few games has been very suspect. I'm not sure about Hamilton's receiving core yet. Powell played a great game in the Dome, but I question his arm strength in the outdoors in the wind. But Kelly definitely has played in the wind in Buffalo. He's used to the weather. It's not going to be much of a factor for him. So under normal circumstances, yeah, I think Toronto can cover. But if we get a questionable day, I think Hamilton's definitely capable of keeping this close, but I don't think Hamilton can win the football game.
All right, that's Rob Braley, our CFL insider, and Andrew McInnis, our expert at WagerTalk. Rob, I'm going to segue into this one because you talked about Hamilton and the play calling in BC. What is going on in BC? They've lost 3 of their last 4 games now. They lose to the Ticats at home, and they've been outscored 114 to 56 across those 3 games that they've lost. What's going on there?
Well, first of all, I think it was 4 weeks ago, Vernon Adams suffered a knee injury. He missed a game, and then he came back. I don't think he's 100%. He's wearing a brace on the one knee, And then during Saskatchewan, he got his other leg. I don't know if it was an knee injury or thigh or what. He was limping around to finish that game. He still finished the game. So his playmaking ability has been very, very limited. Like he is not extending plays with his feet. He's not outside the pocket making plays. They're trying to make him a pocket passer. And if they're going to do that, they might as well have Dane Evans throwing the football. He's a better pocket passer than Vernon Adams is. So he's really stressing the defense by not extending drives. But Hamilton just flat out beat them last week. And let's give it to Hamilton. They played a great game. I think the offensive coordinator out-coached Phillips, the defensive coordinator for BC, and they just played a perfect football game. They had no penalties. They controlled the ball. They spread the field. Now, BC's got the only problem I think they have with their defense is they're maybe a little bit small. They were getting pushed around a little bit the last couple of games. They're giving up a lot of points. They got a lot of speed in that defense, but I don't know. Maybe the size is starting to show up now. So I got to keep an eye. I mean, they just played flat last week too. So I'm thinking they're going to bounce back in Montreal. I think they're going to match up better in Montreal. But, it's something to keep an eye on with the points being scored against BC now for sure.
All right, Rob, appreciate it. You can follow Rob on Twitter at Rob_Braley. And, of course, Andrew at McInnis Picks as well, too. And it's a tough one. That spread is at 3.5 right now, BC and the Alouettes. Alouettes currently at 12 points, 4 points, having played one game more than the Argos, but right on their heels. 6-4 is not a bad season, and they're at home. Guys, before we get into this this final question during the Insiders segment, I want to mention a promo for Andrew McInnis. He has a promo up now on the WagerTalk page where you can get his NFL package, which is NFL sides, totals, and props. $100 off of that, and he's going to toss in the rest of the CFL season. That goes right through the playoffs and the Grey Cup. So you're going to get a ton of action for only $4.99. You can head over, no coupon needed. You can find that on his page over at WagerTalk. Guys, this is the one question I've been waiting. Listen, all season long, the Elks have not looked good the first 2-3 weeks. And before anything was ever written on Twitter or the X, whatever you want to call it, you guys were saying they got to get Trey Ford in there. They got to get Trey Ford in there. And then they eventually get Trey Ford in there. And now all you see on Twitter is, where was Trey Ford? Why didn't they put him in earlier? But you guys were saying it early on in the CFL season. Has Trey Ford, Rob, turned around the Edmonton Elks?
Absolutely, 100%. Him and, again, we talked about 2 weeks ago, the changing of the play callers. Jarius Jackson is a very smart guy. He's a Notre Dame grad. He's a good offensive coordinator. He's got a quarterback now that just extends plays like crazy. You look at his stats last week. Ford, he was 15 complete passes for 317 yards. Those are big completions. I mean, one of the big ones was to Eugene Lewis for that 66-yard touchdown. But he also was their leading rusher. I think he ran for 75 or 80 yards as well on the ground and 10 carries. Like that's 420 yards offense from Trey Ford alone. So Trey Ford is definitely making a big difference here. His ability to extend drives, ad-libbing, keeping the drives alive is what's working for Edmonton. It's not just the play calling, and this guy's making plays on his own. So yeah, Trey Ford has definitely changed the whole gamut in the West. I think Edmonton are a 5.5-point dog going into Calgary. If I'm Calgary, I'm nervous. I think Edmonton can cover this spread.
Andrew, I'm going to throw that same question at you as well too about Trey Ford. I watched the game, obviously that last game on the weekend, and you could see as well too. He's coming off the field. I think he missed the throw. He was visually upset. You could see it in his eyes. I think he overthrew a guy when he scrambled out of the pocket and missed the guy who was at the 5-yard line. It would have been an easy TD, overthrew him. And you could tell he was upset. That's what you want to see from a quarterback. You want to see some emotion on that field. Has he turned his team around? And then if you can also, because I want to hear your thoughts on BC as well too. Touch on BC and what's going on there as well too. But let's start with Trey Ford.
When I look at Trey Ford, I just see a guy that's ready to kind of be the next guy in the CFL. He's young, he's ready to lead his team, and he seems very confident out there. And like you stated, Carm, he's upset when he doesn't make one throw. When there's one wide open guy that he maybe overthrows, he looks visibly disappointed in himself. And that's what you want to see. I mean, everyone's just disappointed in themselves, but he knows what he's capable of. And I'll tell you what, guys, right now, this season, there's been a lot of quarterback injuries. And a lot of that's due to when they leave the pocket. But you need to have that in football. And when Trey Ford leaves the pocket, it just opens up so many more opportunities in their passing game as well, creates a dual threat quarterback, and he has been that guy for them. He got a rushing touchdown in the last game. He's creating plays on his feet. He's passing well in motion, making a lot of dangerous plays. And guys, the offense seems to believe in him. His receivers are liking him. He's bringing confidence to the city of Edmonton. I like what he's doing. But I will tell you what, not just watching out for Edmonton covering spreads, but also watching out for their team total over. This is a team that's been covering their team totals, also covering the full game over. So I will be looking to pay attention to that. And this is a very interesting spread this week with Edmonton and Calgary. I mean, seeing different people's power rankings and power rate, I think that some people might just kind of change theirs every single week, but I saw the TSN, of course, that's kind of the ESPN equivalent here in Canada. They had Edmonton now ranked higher than Calgary. I'm not sure if that really makes sense because Edmonton just kind of caught fire now, but is Edmonton playing better football than Calgary? We'll find out. But if you really think so, as you stated, Carm, they're getting 5.5 points, or Rob talked about that as well. So it's an interesting week to see Calgary kind of face a step down in competition this week. But Edmonton comes into this one feeling really good about themselves. So I'm curious to see what goes on in that one. We'll touch about that game a little bit more later in the show. But really quick, BC here. This is the thing. 3 of the last 4 games, they have been playing tough opponents. And they put up 29 points against Saskatchewan. You'd think for the most part, if BC puts up 29 points up against anybody, they should get that win. So that's a tough one there defensively. Then you look at their next game, and Hamilton has their way with their defense again. So when I look at this BC team right now, we can talk about Vernon Adams Jr. all we want, but the defense also hasn't looked the same as it looked maybe through the first 8-9 weeks of the season. Something to make note of. But going into Montreal this week, Montreal got slapped around last week by Winnipeg. I talked about it last week on the show. This is a Montreal team that has defeated all kinds of teams they should beat. But whenever they have had to step up in class, Toronto, Winnipeg, and now BC, they have struggled. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be Montreal right now in the spot that they're in with a BC team. Not really too happy coming into this spot.
Yeah, the power rankings, Andrew, at times can be extremely confusing. Sometimes a little bit of overreaction to how a team has played the last couple of weeks, and you kind of have to look at who they've played as well too. But speaking of which, it is we talked about it's Labor Day weekend. Let's go to the inside the numbers. We'll have a look at the numbers for the 4 games that are being played on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And these rivalry games, Andrew, are always interesting. When I talk about them, Toronto and Hamilton, and Edmonton and Calgary, the fan bases do not like each other. The teams do not like each other. If you're going to win a game, it is on Labor Day against the team, the 2 Alberta teams, the two teams in Ontario. You want to win that game. You want, especially if you're at home in front of your home fans. If you're the visiting team, there's nothing better than shutting up that crowd. Andrew, look at inside the numbers and tell me what you have as your market mover.
Yeah, of course. We talked about it already. BC road favorites of 3.5. Total sits at 46.5 in that one. We got the next game up, Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, also known as the Banjo Bowl, I believe. That one's obviously a very competitive one, but Saskatchewan, they got their 3rd string quarterback out there. Winnipeg put up a big number there last week. We'll see if they can do it again. They're 7.5 road favorites. Total for them is at 46.5 as well. Next game, Toronto, Hamilton. We discussed that one. We're seeing 8.5, and Edmonton, Calgary, as we discussed. Edmonton getting 5.5 points on the road. That one also at 46.5. So 3 totals this week at 46.5, and 1 total, Toronto and Hamilton, currently sitting at 49.5. When I look at this BC game, that's the one that sticks out to me right now. I do believe if you like the BC Lions, you should bet them right now. Pause the video and go and bet this BC Lions team, because I do not think that number will be there come kickoff time. I also think we'll see some love towards the over. So if you like that, I'd bet that now. If you have some interest on the under, I feel like I would wait until kickoff time, 5 minutes before the game, and lock in that best number you possibly can. But this BC team, 3 of the last 4 games they've lost, and now they're playing a Montreal team that has not fared well against some of the league's best. So I think that we will see some money coming in here on the BC Lions. But overall, 3 totals at 46.5 this week, 1 at 49.5. Be careful, guys. This week, rivalry week, as we get closer to the playoffs, we could be seeing a lot more defense and a lot more conservative play calling when you see some of these rivalry games.
All right, Andrew, before we get into our extra point segment, I just want to bring in Rob for one final minute because, I looked at the totals and we've had some high totals. But, Rob, I want you to touch on this Winnipeg-Saskatchewan game if you can.
Yeah, this is a huge rivalry, and Winnipeg's going into some very, very hostile territory, to say the least. This is going to be probably the most intense, exciting game of the week, in my opinion. Now, Saskatchewan is getting 7.5 points at home. And they're coming off a bye, and they just beat BC. This team is going to be ready to play. They're a much more physical team on the defensive side of the ball than what Winnipeg has seen in a little while. They're getting 7.5 points at home. Now, if we go back 2 weeks ago, there were some big road favorites that lost games and didn't cover spreads. So I'd really like Saskatchewan here to cover this number. It's too big of a number, and they're rested, and they're going to be prepared for this one. This is going to be a great football game.
All right, I love it. That's Rob Braley, our insider. You can find him at Rob_Braley, and of course Andrew McInnis. You can find him at McInnis Picks, and of course on the WagerTalk site where he has that great deal. CFL, you're going to get the rest of the CFL for free. How do you do that? You purchase the NFL package, his sides, his totals, his props, and you get $100 off of that as well too. So instead of $5.99, $4.99, you get 2 leagues in North America, 2 countries, all the plays in football for the rest of the season for both of them. It's a great deal as well. Andrew, let's get into the extra point here. Tell us what you got. Let's get us an extra point winner.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Carm, for the promotion there. Really excited about the NFL season as well. So, guys, take advantage of that deal with my NFL stuff, and you will get all of my CFL plays as well in that package. Let's get a winner here for the best bet segment, the extra point segment. We're going to go up and over with Calgary and Edmonton over 46.5. 24, 29, and 30. Those are the numbers for the Edmonton Elks in their last 3 games as far as their points. They're heating up, and we talked about it. Trey Ford is leading this team to success. Taking a look at what Calgary has been involved in as well. They've been involved in some high-scoring games, what feels like all year long. But the fact that they gave up 42 points at one point to Ottawa, last week giving up 40-plus to Toronto, they're giving up points and involved in high-scoring games in what feels like every game they play in. And although Edmonton has improved offensively, I still don't think their defense has improved that much. And this is a big week here for Calgary to step up, play a team that's not really as competitive as they've been playing, and see if they can put some points on the board. It's a big week for quarterback Jake Mayer, in my opinion. And I believe this game will be exciting and will be the highest scoring game of the week. So I'll take the over. Calgary and Edmonton over 46.5.
Let's see some points. Guys, week 13 of the CFL season, of course, goes this weekend. If you don't want to miss another video, whether it's the CFL show, Puck Time, Wager Talk Today, First Pitch, any of these shows, click on that subscribe button below. You'll never miss another show. And, of course, hit that like button for the guys on the show that put in the time as well. We love to hear your comments. So drop what you think is your best bet in the comments below. And we'll reply to them as well too if you have any questions. But for myself, Andrew McInnis, and Rob Braley, this is 2 and Out, Week 13. We'll see you next week. Good luck with your wagers.